Hello, friend. Thanks for joining me for another book chat. Today, let's spend some time with Winter's Heart, Book 9 in the Wheel of Time fantasy series by Robert Jordan. This book was originally published in 2000, and I have chatted the previous 8 books here on my channel, so I will link to those chats down below if you are interested in checking those out. I've been buddy reading this series with a coworker, my coworker Annette, and we have taken us over about 2 years now to get through the first 10 books. Actually, I have finished the next book in this series already. I've fallen a little behind on my videos, but yeah, Book 9, Winter's Heart. You know, some books, some series, they don't necessarily need to be, the books don't necessarily need to be read in order. However, this is not one of those series. You definitely need to read this series in order. So, spoilers. I'm going to be careful in this chat to not give away anything that I think would detract from a first-time reader's experience with this book or this series. So that's a little difficult to do when you're in Book 9. So how I thought I would approach this chat is actually just to call out a few of the more interesting general things about this book, this particular book, that I enjoyed. So the first thing I was going to talk about is the title, Winter's Heart. So Winter's Heart, so in the previous book, or maybe the previous couple of books, there's been a lot of climate issues going on because of different things that have happened or the things that are going on in this universe. And in Winter's Heart, it's sort of swung the other way and gone into a very cold freeze. And so a really, really harsh winter. So that's the reason for this title, Winter's Heart. But, you know, just about this book in general, about this series in general, I've mentioned this on previous chats, is my favorite thing about this fantasy world is the way that the one power is structured. It's gendered. So there is a one power that humans have access to, and there's a female side to it. So there's there's a female access to the one power, and then there's a different sort of male access to the power. And because of events that happened in this universe, in this world, the one power, the male side of the one power has become tainted. So males cannot safely use the power. And so that's sort of the whole premise for the whole series, is actually a character at the very beginning of the series is a male who can access the one power, and what all that does to disrupt this world and the balance of power, as well as the balance of power in the sense of political, material, worldly power, and power in the sense of the one power, the one source. So in this particular book, one of the interesting parts about that is the possibility that the male part of the power, which is called Sidene, and the female side is called Sidar, could possibly be healed. And so that is featured in this book. And there's a quote here that talks about that, and it says, "That was the first difficulty, to fight Sidene while surrendering to Sidar. The first difficulty and the first key to what he had to do. The male and female halves of the true source were alike and unlike, attracting and repelling, fighting against each other, even as they work together to drive the wheel of time." So it would be a radical change in this world if the male and female power, if males were able to use the one power again, as they had several thousands of years earlier before this historical event called the breaking of the world had happened. So I just think that's really cool, and I love that aspect of this series, and it's what keeps me coming back actually for book after book, because I'm just so anxious to see how this all turns out. So, warders. We learned in this particular book, we learned a little something new about warders. So, as I mentioned, the female side of the power, females have been able to use the one power all along. So, they did not lose their ability. So, therefore, the power has centered among females who are able to channel, it's called. And the women who are able to channel, at least in the primary part of this world, they're called Aes Sedai. And Aes Sedai often have males who do not channel, but they are kind of their kind of a personal knight. They are, however, bonded. It's called bonded as a warder, where they actually, it's not just an oath of fealty or anything like that, like a knighthood thing. It's actually a connection through the one power that connects the Aes Sedai to a male ward or to a warder that traditionally has been a male, although that's changing in this book. But we did learn something new about warders, the history of warders, and the quote here that explains that says, he was what some of the sisters called fresh caught, bonded less than a year. The term dated from a time when warders had not yet always been asked whether they wanted the bond, and he was very assiduous in his duties. So, we learn here there's this particular warder that's being very attentive to his Aes Sedai, and they call him like a fresh caught. So we learned that in the past, the Aes Sedai just caught a male she wanted to be her warder, and she bonded him against his will. This was actually brought up several books ago, where this is a big taboo. So the fever of the Dragonsworn. So in this book, actually in previous books as well, there is a group called the Dragonsworn, and they are, in theory, working towards the goals of the Dragon Reborn, but actually they are fanatics, and they are very dangerous, and they kill with impunity with those they come along. That they come along, if they come along people who they feel like are not pure enough, they will kill them. And so there is another character in the series whose name is Perrin, who has sort of wolf sensibilities. He's able to smell emotions, and he comes across some of the Dragonsworn, and he smells them out. And there's a quote that sort of describes that I thought was pretty cool. It says, he filtered out the smell of the wood smoke from the town's chimneys. The lot of them stank of old sweat and unwashed bodies, of eagerness and fear, and of a strange fever he had not recognized before, a reflection of the madness of Masema. Hostile or not, they would kill him or anyone at Masema's word. Yeah, so it's fanaticism, right? He's able to smell this kind of fanaticism, and I thought that was really cool. So another really interesting thing here, I think, is the colonialism of the Shan-Chan. So several books back, the Shan-Chan made an appearance in the books, and they are from a far distant culture, and it's sort of almost like Europeans coming to the Americas, meaning they just show up and they start colonizing. And they have a different technology, and it really overwhelms sort of the natives. And to me, that's really interesting, the way that is portrayed in the book, because I think it portrays colonialism in a very interesting way. In that, in some ways, the Shan-Chan bring more prosperity and more order, but on the other hand, of course, they're colonizing. So I think that's really interesting. So there are several different plots and intrigues going on among the various characters, and they're not all in the same place. They're spread out over a vast geographic distance. So the characters, even though they're theoretically working together, they don't always know what each other are doing. And plus, because of the events that have happened in this book and in the previous books, the world of this world has become disrupted politically, etc. So there are rumors and political intrigues, and there are rumors flying all the time, and a lot of misinformation and fake news, we would say today. And there's a couple of quotes that really illustrate that I think are pretty cool. The world seldom knows what it thinks it knows, I think that's so cool and so true, right? The world seldom knows what it thinks it knows. And then there's another one that says, "You can never know everything," Land said quietly, "and part of what you know is always wrong. Perhaps even the most important part. A portion of wisdom lies in knowing that. A portion of courage lies in going on anyway." So, that's true as well, right? Like, you can't ever really know everything, and especially when you're planning for like military action and action like that. In the case here with Land, you don't know everything, so you just have to have the courage to kind of do the best you can. I think is what he's trying to say there, and I think that's pretty cool. And then there's another quote that I think is really interesting, and it's Matt, and he's saying, "Who cares what stories people tell?" Not true, Matt. Stories have power. Gleeman's tales and bards' epics and rumors in the street alike. They stir passions and change the way men see the world. Isn't that true? It's true, right? What we read actually impacts how we think and what we do. So what we read, and also what we hear, and what news we get. So yeah, I think that's really cool too. All right, as I mentioned, I'm kind of behind on videos. I've actually read book 10 already. This book had a lot of plot twists and turns that ended on a big cliffhanger, which we picked up in book 10, and I will have a chat on book 10 coming up soon, but that is not my next chat. My next chat is actually going to be The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter by Rupert Spira, and this will be my next chat, which will be coming up soon. So until next time, take care. Bye.